Next time you're in Dollar Tree, head on over to the Crafty Squares section and grab you one of their little wood cubes, or grab a couple, because to be honest, this idea you can remix and make in different styles to match your home decor in different rooms. One thing I've been a fan of are corbels and finials. And as you can see here, these vintage joints, they're expensive. Even these brand new ones at the at-home store, along with these Etsy ones, they're all costly. But I knew with Dollar Tree's new little decor pieces and one of their cubes, we could create our own finial. We're just gonna have to put a little elbow grease into it because this didn't go out as I originally planned. Listen, I know, just roll on with me, okay? First, we're gonna have to remove the little hanger on this decor piece, and as you can see here, this is where it already started happening. The whole piece did not come out, which I needed it to, but I didn't realize this at the time. I'm still questioning if there was anything left in there because the hole was so tiny. I was like, is there metal left in there? Because in order to drill a hole down on metal, it's a whole thing, and I did not want to have to deal with that, especially because I'm holding it in my hand, so I had to bring on in the drill, and I actually brought in two of my drills because they already had drill bits in them. So here was the larger one I was going to use after I drilled this hole, but to begin with, I had a skinnier one in the other one, and I was going to use that to find out that metal piece in here. And I do not recommend this. Do not try this at home. If this happens to you, just know that there's still metal stuck in there. I didn't know it at the time, but once I pulled this out, there was a ton of little metal bits frayed at the ends of this drill bit, and I was like, we're not drilling through that, especially with me holding it in my hand. That's just dangerous, and that would probably be one of the dumber things I've done. Then, it got worse. Right here, it got worse. That sucker went straight through there. What? Oh my gosh. It's not even solid wood. It's just little pieces of wood. Okay. That was completely unexpected. And you might be asking yourself, Brandy, why are you drilling all these holes anyway? Why don't you just glue them suckers together or do it from the other side? Well, finial is skinny from the top and it gets fat all the way down at the bottom. And I wanted to use a dowel joint, which is a hole on each side of the project that you're using, and you use a little dowel, little circular piece of wood as the connecting joint to glue together from the inside, so this way you have a real stable product. Okay, this was giving me struggles at each end. What I did to adjust for this is I took some twine and I glued it around a toothpick and shoved in the hole, and then glued that also up to the tiniest little bit of gap that I had in our white decor piece from Dollar Tree, and then glued everything together with some hot glue, and then came back in with tight bond wood glue and went all around the edges and removed any excess string using my little needle nose pliers from the wood glue, and allowed this to dry for a couple of hours before we carried on. It took a minute, but it finally worked. Okay, if y'all are gonna do it, make sure that little metal piece comes all the way out, and this shouldn't be such an issue. And you could use a longer piece of wood dowel that actually goes to the bottom of that cube from Dollar Tree, so you don't have to use the buffer of the twine. Now that everything's together, I grabbed my antique Waverly wax to give a nice coat all over the whole piece. This is the first step. I do want this to look a little worn, so I put that on there. We're gonna layer it, and then grabbed one of these little resin pieces I had in my stash that one of my admins had made for me. She loves making little resin pieces. I think it's IOD. Don't quote me on that. Once it was dry, I took this candle I had in my stash from Dollar Tree and gave the piece a nice rub down all over the place. Now, the more you do this when you put your top layer of paint, the more distressing you'll have. So keep that in mind. I put enough candle wax on there that made sense for me. and then took this beautiful fusion color paint that I got from Rachel over at Stella Rose Mercantile and put a layer all over this piece. Now I have some ideas with some other Dollar Tree wood pieces to make this even bigger and thicker. We'll see what happens in the future, but I also have some ideas for Christmas. I just wanted to keep this nice and simple, so you guys had this idea in your little craft stash arsenal here. When your piece was completely dry, grab your packing tape and start rubbing it all over and then pull it on back. It will reveal that underneath layer and give a beautiful distressed look. This would have also looked really beautiful with some transfers on it, but I wanted to keep it simple so you guys can see how you just need a little paint sometimes to add a little something something to a piece you created from Dollar Tree. For this tabletop decor shelf, we're going to need 2 of the chalkboards from Dollar Tree, and we're going to need 2 of their little palette boxes. And obviously people use as many boxes as you would like to make this as large as you would like, but I'm just here giving out the idea. Now I want to decoupage the inside of the boxes, the sides, and the top. And to do that, I'm going to use some of my TDS Creative decoupage tissue paper pieces. This is just 1/4 section of a larger sheet, and I'm just going to use pieces of it cut up to form one unified decor piece. It'll make sense when you see it all come together. If you guys don't want to decoupage, you could also use the wallpaper from Dollar Tree. I wanted to find a color that matched the decoupage tissue paper, and I felt like this agave, I think that's how you say it, from Waverly was the closest match. I only applied 1 layer of this paint to everything except the back of the inside of the boxes, because I want to show you guys a little trick with the decoupage. Now, my new favorite medium, y'all, my new favorite medium is this Mod Podge multi-surface. I am absolutely in love with this stuff. First of all, it's really thin to work with. I feel like it's regular Mod Podge meets folk art varnish, and I am just, it's my happy place, and there's no smell. Oh my gosh, super happy. Anyhow, a lot of times most of my tissue paper, they are neutral because I like to decoupage onto wood and have that wood grain pop through. And if once you put, you know, your medium down, you can slightly see through the decoupage tissue paper, which is another reason why people will tell you to paint your backgrounds white so the designs pop. Now for this, I left it neutral because I wanted to see how closely it blended into the color that we painted. I wanted it all to match. It's slightly off. I notice it in person. You might not notice it, but did you know that if you pick a slightly different shade close to the piece that you're decoupaging with, the color of the paper, because it turns translucent when you apply it, it will adapt the hue of the paint that you have in the background on your piece into the decoupage tissue paper, making it look more cohesive, like it is part of the wood. I used Type-On Quick and Thick and hot glue to attach everything, and then I made sure to touch up all the little sections with some extra paint. Let this dry before I carried on decoupaging the sides and the top. And then I just rinsed and repeated the decoupage onto the sides and the top of our little piece here. Now I do want to give a little warning, y'all. I do want to give a little warning. I have done this before with a napkin, and the results may vary, okay? The results may vary. Sometimes if you use too dark of a color with a napkin, your napkin is going to really just blend in other than take on the hue. I recommend using rice paper for this or tissue paper for this versus trying to do it with, let's say, a red napkin onto another red color, because I've done this with a red napkin onto a background red color and it really absorbed the design, and it was hard to differentiate the design from the deep red. Now I've done it with a red napkin and a red candle, and that worked out a little bit better. So you know, you might want to just give some tests here and there. But I've also tried this technique with a yellow napkin and a deeper yellow background, and that turned out really well. So if you want to try this technique with a painted color, with a color of a napkin to see how that works out for you, just recommend testing it on something else than the exact project you want to finish with. I did pop a layer of that multi-surface Mod Podge all over the piece before this little reveal here. I just wanted to show y'all. I love that stuff. I love it. It's not thick, it's not streaky, it's absolutely beautiful. And of course, I staged it up for y'all so you could see it with some little pieces right on the top of it. You'll have to let me know in the comments below if you have ever decoupaged completely over a paint color and how that turned out for you. In my effort to continue keeping as many books out the landfill as possible, I'm bringing to you 3 different book page DIY ideas with some Dollar Tree books. Now, as you can see, this one I've already started to DIY, but we're not actually going to use the book. We're just going to be using the book pages. And I tore a bunch out of this size book and then grabbed a different size Dollar Tree book and tore more pages out. You can use as many pages as you would like, and you can use as many different book sizes as you would like. And if you don't have any books from Dollar Tree, but you've thrifted some, or you have some books you're thinking possibly of throwing away, keep them, and try these ideas. Once I had the pages all torn out, I then tore them down even more, and you can do this 2 different ways. One, you can just do it with your fingers like I'm doing and do a little section by little section all the way around. You want to have that frayed edge, okay, because we're going to make these look old, used, vintage, stained, all of the things. Or you can do one long tear like this, okay? Pick your poison, but either you'll see the results. They look pretty much the same and will get that authentic vintage book page look. But truth be told, people, I feel like the long tear was way quicker. Now grab you a spray bottle and some antique Waverly wax. You could use paint if you want, but I like antique Waverly wax for this. And honestly, people, there are a ton of different ways you can stain your book pages. Do the coffee bags, the teas, all of this. You can dunk them. This, for me, works quick. This initial dye, what you're seeing me do to these pages where I'm spraying and and I also like using one of these. This is probably the only thing I truly like using these sponge paint brushes on, is something like this. You don't get brush strokes. You're able to spray the water out if you see streaks to continue to make it look authentic. All right, look how beautiful that is. And I know it looks dark, but once, you know, we dry it off, it won't be as dark. Anyhow, this initial staining from what you see me doing to drying them took about 25 minutes. It was not a long drawn out situation. And you can even take the bottoms of like cans or like this paint thing and like make little circles, get creative with it. You know what I mean? Then just wipe the bottom of whatever you're using off. You can use all kinds of things. Stamps. Get as wild as you want with your staining. And then you can use a blow dryer, people. If you don't have a heat gun, use a blow dryer. Dry your pieces off. Again, about 25 minutes. That's all this took. If you want to dunk yours and then put them in the oven to, you know, some people use the oven to dry theirs out and how much I am scared, like my mind, one of those pages would fall off and then into the oven and burn my house down. It's a whole mental thing. Anyway, once these are dry, absolutely gorgeous. See a little circle on there. The reason I also love using the sponge brush over a paintbrush is you don't see any streaks, okay? And the water bottle as you're spraying, if you do see a streak, it allows you to spray it out and even everything out. Absolutely beautiful. Once they're dry, grab you a transfer, people. Any transfers. I'm going to use my TDS Creative transfers and cut down 2 little sections and just put on the smallest front page. You can absolutely stack your pages however you would like. I did some small pages and then a couple larger ones in the back. Now, I will tell you, depending on the quality of the transfers, you may want to lay a layer of Mod Podge down and allow that to dry. I can't promise other transfers are going to stick onto the paper. Mine, I know, adhere really well just to paper without that. Just a little elbow grease, rubbing that beautiful transfer down, tie some twine with it, and it's absolutely stunning. You can also add some color stain to your book pages. To do that, you're just going to make sure that you take some acrylic paint and water it down really, really well. I mean, super well. Spray your pages back up again, and then make sure that your sponge brush is really saturated with the color that you want, and go around the edges or all over the page if you wanted to. I just wanted some touches of green because we're going to be adding some fall touches to this paper with our transfer that we're going to put on here. So I just went around the edges. Took me about 5 minutes to dry these pages up, and how stunning are these hints of green around the edges. I also love that little circle print you can see. Super cute. I love the pages just as they are before we even add anything. I'm gonna grab some of my TDS creative transfers and cut out a little section. Now, depending on when you're watching this, these are my 2026 autumn release transfers. They will not be available to the end of August. So if you're watching this after then, they'll be available on my website. If you're watching this before, they're not available yet, and I'm sorry about that. I mean, sorry, kind of, but I really wanted to craft with these. I added a little bit of twine. I did it thicker on this piece than the last piece, and absolutely love how this stain blended into the transfer. A good rule of thumb, if you're going to use multiple colors when you're staining your book pages, is to make sure that you're not completely overlapping the colors, so this way it doesn't blend and create an entirely different color on its own. I tried to splotch out the red and the green because we're going to create little Christmas pages, and I wanted them to be fairly dominant, so I tapped deeper and darker on the edges. If you go to do this, do make sure you are thinning it out with the water, because if you don't, when they dry, it's going to just look like paint, and that the paint is going to cover over your words, and you don't want that happening. When they're all dry, grab your transfers and then apply your piece. Again, I'm going to be using my TDS creative transfers. These will also not be available until my winter release the end of October, but wanted to use them for this particular project and think they're absolutely gorgeous. Adding these onto the book pages, I did take a little bit of gold gilding wax and brush around the edges, and decided not to put any twine on these and just layer them for a decorative touch. You'll have to let me know if you plan on staining your book pages. If you're looking for more Dollar Tree DIY inspiration, check out this video right here. And as always, people, thank y'all so much for stopping by and hanging out with your girl today. As always, I appreciate you. Until next time.